Good day. As you might have been aware, we're using tools from Anywhere Subject for our development, even in creating SithasoDaisy5. So what we're going to be looking at today is how SithasoDaisy5 works in relation to what has been added to the latest version. So the website for Anywhere Software is bfx.com. This is actually a programming language that is similar to Visual Basic or VB.NET that you can use to write your native applications for Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, Linux, Arduino, Raspberry, and all sorts of other things. You usually use the same code base to develop these applications, and the code is transpiled to native code that works across all these mobile devices. So what we have been using for the past couple of years is a tool called Banana, which is actually a transpiler that uses B4X code that you write, and then it transpiles it to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for you to produce your web application. So through the usage of our tools, you are able to use an abstract designer to create your user interface. For example, this abstract design here is translated into that. Then that's the code that you basically write and stuff. And then this is what Banana does. So it's used for website and progressive web apps. You use familiar before Xcode. As I've indicated, that's similar to VB.NET or Visual Basic. And then this gets transpiled to JavaScript, and you can create your other before-x libs. So SithasoDaisy5 is a before-x lib that has been created based on daisyui. So daisyui is a nice component framework for Tailwind that actually makes it easy for you to use Tailwind in relation to developing your applications. Like for example, when I started using Tailwind, I was like taken aback by the number of classes that one needed to do just to create a simple button and all sorts of other things. Then I ran into this component framework, which actually made it much more easier for me to actually create user interfaces for the web based on Tailwind CSS. Like for example, this framework uses simple classes for you to create any kind of component that you want based on the components that they have. So we adopted the same methodology that is here. For example, this button here default is just created with using this element and this class, and it's the button that it creates there. So what we did was to take all of these components that are here and build a library that you can use with B4X to be able to do the same development of your web applications, but using B4X language. So it's called SithasoDaisy5. So the current version that we have here is 55.58, which is actually based on the latest version of daisyui, and it has been deployed on Vessel, where, for example, it's hosted so that you can actually run the demo that is there. So this is the demo. Now there's some few things that we've added here. And if you've been following our videos, we've been actually talking about how one can create a web application or a website or a progressive website or a web application using SithasoDaisy5. For example, we've added a Hoover 3D card based on the latest version of daisyui. This is a card that you can hover on. For example, this one is a picture, this one is a bank card, and then you can have some other pictures on it. So you can also add click events to these things, but it also makes your user interface to be a little bit intuitive and nice in relation to how this thing works. So to see how that works, for example, you can see it from the daisyui documentation. You see this is the class that we use, and then you create a div. For example, for this one, it's this particular component creation like this, yeah, but then we have replicated this using a custom view from that has been created to be compatible with B4X. Like you drag and drop a component on your abstract designer and that you're able to use it. So we've also added a theme controller on this particular version. So what this does is when you want to use different themes from your application, like for example, you want to use a Wi-Fi, you change the theme. When you want to use winter, for example, you can select that one and then it changes the theme, like this color here has changed. Valentine, you see it has changed the structure of everything that is here to suit that particular theme. Synthwave, sunset. So there are different themes that you can use. So we use a theme controller to actually change the themes. What we've done is to take one of our components that we've created here, and then when you do a tick event here, it reads what that theme is, and then it changes the value of the theme controller to reflect that particular theme that you have. So it basically means that you can use any theme that you want. This is above and beyond you customizing the colors of your components when you want to actually use them. Let's set to default. And what I also added here was a toggle. For example, if I want to change that to synthwave, I just select that toggle and turn it off. Internally, it's using a theme controller that with a value set to the synthwave so that when it's checked, you can just quickly change your theme. So it's easy like that. We've also created a custom component, web component using vanilla JavaScript. For example, this we can use it for gender charts, where, for example, we have percentages and also numbers, where, for example, there might be differences between females and males or females and males in relation to percentage. And then you can define your colors. If you see here, there's this wave-like, water wave-like movement on the gender chart. This was inspired by a water balloon progress bar that we find for jQuery some time ago. So you can customize this. You can use this chart where, for example, you want to have your gender illustrations and all sorts of other things. We've also added Apex charts in relation to this particular version. One should consider the license of Apex charts when they're actually using this because it has a license based on some parameters and things like that. Then one needs to check those license parameters to be able to use this. As a result, the CSS and the JavaScript files for the Apex charts are just included as script tags, but they are not embedded as part of this particular library due to licensing and all sorts of other things. So using the latest version of Apex Charts, that is, I think it's 5.36 or 5.3.6 to create these charts. It's not all of them that are available here, but you just picked most of the ones that we'd like to use. For example, we can add heat charts and all sorts of other charts, but depending on what we're going to need in the future, is things that we can actually use and everything else. And then the devices also has been added, but actually this is not necessarily a new addition, but an upgrade in relation to the devices that we were using before. Um, so what we've done is to basically use a new set of devices to show. For example, the iMac Pro here is a text that is inside here. You can create any kind of HTML element inside this particular screen, So these are various skins and devices that we have. So we've changed it to actually, we found another library for devices and just decided let's just rather use that one. This is useful where, for example, you want to have a preview of how your user interface will actually look like when it's used on an actual device and all sorts of other things. So you can choose which device that you want to use and then feed text into it in terms of the HTML text that you want to be using for it. We have moved the login screen to these pages where, for example, you are able to have a login screen. This is created with the power of the Abstract Designer, meaning that you drag and drop things or components into your Abstract Designer and create your various pages. So the other tools that we currently have here, like local generator, you can open it as a web app, so that you can use it to, okay, I don't know why that is not starting, but I'll check, I have to check that link. Yeah. So we've also done some, what is going on? Okay, this goes to the B4X. Let's see what's going on again. Okay, now it's loading. This is a low-code generator, which will help you to create low-code applications with SithasoDaisy5. So what we've also done is to actually do some tricks in relation to some of the components that here, like for example, the charts. This will be your preference, dialog, and all sorts of other things. Charts, what we've done is to actually tweak these so that they display proper. It's usually better for the width of the charts to be 100%. So what we've done is to actually just customize some of these charts so that they are more clearer and also more nicer in relation to how they look. Of course, this was done before, but the internals was just updated to make the charts responsive in a proper way. So that's what's actually new in relation to the latest version. I'm not going to go through everything that we have shown before in relation to what is happening here. But what's nice is that the latest version of daisyui using the latest version of tailwindcss as indicated here is actually getting stronger and stronger by the day. The version is 5.14 and we try to make sure that as much as possible any updates and bug fixes that need to be done are done on SithasoDaisy5 so that at least it's working properly. Now, the low-code tool is a tool to generate code for your applications where you're creating projects. And also the information that is here is fake data, of course. But what happens is you create your table, you create your project, you create your tables, you create your fields. Then what you're able to do is then to have a preview of how that application works. And then, like, for example, adding a category here and how this will look when you're actually doing the application itself. What we've also done is to create some different applications following different backends strategies in relation to a full stack approach of creating your application. So that's where we're currently at. So this is a work in progress kind of a tool, but so far we've been able to create the same application of the address book using Pocketbase, using IndexedDB, using MySQL via REST API, and then we'll be looking in terms of how we're going to do that using SQL Server and everything else. But so far, that's all that we have for you in relation to what's the latest development in relation to SithasoDaisy. And we thank you again for your interest and your usage of these tools because they are being created for you to use. And we're happy to share them to the world. Okay, thank you then. Bye.